For most of recorded history, Greenland existed beyond the mental map of global power. While empires rose and fell across Eurasia, Africa, and the Americas, Greenland remained a vast, frozen land on the edge of human awareness, inhabited by small communities adapted to extreme conditions and largely untouched by the great geopolitical struggles of their time. European explorers passed by its coasts, missionaries settled briefly, and colonial administration followed, yet the island never became a center of trade, industry, or population. This apparent irrelevance was deceptive. Geography does not lose value simply because technology has not yet caught up to exploit it. In the modern era, as aviation, rocketry, satellite surveillance, and global logistics redefined how power is projected, Greenland's position began to matter in ways earlier centuries could not foresee. Located between North America and Europe, bordering the Arctic Ocean, and lying directly beneath the shortest routes connecting the world's major military powers, Greenland occupies a position that cannot be duplicated elsewhere on the planet. In the 21st century, where the speed of detection and response determines survival, distance is measured not in kilometers, but in time. Missiles do not follow political borders, they follow physics. Aircraft do not choose scenic routes, they choose the shortest ones. Satellites orbit according to orbital mechanics, not diplomacy. All of these realities converge over the Arctic, and Greenland sits at its center. Though formally an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, the island's geopolitical value now extends far beyond constitutional arrangements. It has become a geographic constant in a rapidly changing strategic equation, a place where the structure of the Earth itself amplifies power for whoever can see, monitor, and operate from its frozen expanse. The strategic importance of Greenland is perhaps most clearly understood through the lens of American military planning. For the United States of America, the island's role has been central for nearly a century, even if rarely discussed in public. During the Second World War, Washington recognized that Greenland's location made it essential for transatlantic operations and weather forecasting, prompting the establishment of an American presence to deny its use to hostile powers. This presence evolved dramatically during the Cold War, when the Arctic became the primary corridor for nuclear confrontation between Washington and Moscow. Intercontinental ballistic missiles launched from Eurasia toward North America would travel over the North Pole, leaving the Arctic as the only region where early detection could provide precious minutes of warning. This logic remains unchanged in the modern era. At the northwestern edge of Greenland operates Pituffik Space Base, formerly Thule Air Base, one of the most critical nodes in the United States' global early warning and missile defense architecture. From this remote location, American systems track ballistic missile launches, monitor satellite movements, and observe military activity across the Northern Hemisphere. In scenarios involving strategic threats from Russia, whose nuclear arsenal remains one of the largest in the world, or from North Korea, whose missile program has steadily increased in range and sophistication, Greenland's sensors provide irreplaceable detection capability. These systems do not exist to prevent conflict through force alone. They exist to prevent miscalculation, panic, and surprise. Without Greenland, the American defensive shield would develop a blind spot at the very moment when technological advances are shortening decision times to seconds. This is why U.S. interest in Greenland is structural rather than political, rooted in unchanging geographic and physical realities rather than in the ideology or personality of any single leader. That structural interest briefly became a matter of global debate in 2019, when then-President Donald Trump publicly expressed interest in the idea of the United States purchasing Greenland. The proposal was met with immediate disbelief and ridicule. European officials treated it as a diplomatic embarrassment. Media outlets framed it as a curiosity or joke, and public discussion focused more on tone than substance. Yet behind the controversy lay a strategic clarity that was largely ignored. Trump approached geopolitics with a transactional mindset, viewing territory as a tangible asset rather than an abstract symbol of sovereignty. In his view, Greenland represented a long-term investment in American security, influence, and strategic autonomy in a region poised for transformation. The idea was never realistic in legal or political terms. Denmark and Greenland's own government rejected it outright, emphasizing self-determination and international norms. But realism was not the purpose of the statement. Its function was declarative. It signaled that the Arctic had become a priority arena of competition, and that the United States intended to assert its interests openly rather than quietly. The episode marked a shift in how Arctic geopolitics entered public consciousness, revealing what defense planners had long understood: that Greenland was no longer peripheral, but central to future power dynamics. Beyond military strategy, Greenland's growing importance is driven by what lies beneath its ice. Geological studies suggest the presence of substantial reserves of rare earth elements, uranium, oil, and natural gas, resources that are increasingly critical to modern economies. Rare earth elements are not rare because they are scarce in nature, but because they are difficult and expensive to extract and process. They are indispensable to advanced technologies, including electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, precision-guided weapons, radar, aerospace components, and consumer electronics. Control over these materials translates directly into economic leverage and military capability. At present, a dominant share of global rare earth production and processing is controlled by China, creating a strategic dependency for other major powers. For Washington, this dependency represents a long-term vulnerability that extends beyond economics into national defense. Under the leadership of Xi Jinping, China has articulated a vision of itself as a near-Arctic state, expanding its presence in the region through scientific research, infrastructure investment, and commercial engagement. Chinese interest in Greenland has included proposals related to airports, ports, and mineral extraction, raising concerns among Western policymakers about strategic influence gained through economic means. These initiatives are part of a broader approach that combines long-term planning, state-backed investment, and patience, allowing influence to accumulate gradually rather than through overt confrontation. Parallel to China's economic strategy, Vladimir Putin has pursued a more openly militarized vision for the Arctic. Russia views the region as both a defensive buffer and an economic opportunity. Over the past decade, Moscow has reopened and modernized Soviet-era bases, deployed advanced air defense systems, expanded its fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers, and invested heavily in the Northern Sea Route. This shipping corridor, running along Russia's Arctic coastline, promises shorter transit times between Asia and Europe as ice cover continues to recede. For Russia, control over this route offers economic revenue, strategic leverage, and a means of projecting power in the high north. Greenland, positioned near the entrance to the Arctic Basin and adjacent to transatlantic routes, occupies a critical monitoring and balancing role in this environment. Its location allows for observation of Russian activity while simultaneously anchoring Western presence in the region. As a result, Greenland becomes not merely a passive territory, but an active variable in a complex strategic equation involving deterrence, trade, and regional influence. Even states without Arctic territory play a role in shaping the importance of Greenland. Kim Jong-un commands a state whose ballistic missile tests have demonstrated increasing range and ambition. While North Korea has no presence in the Arctic, its missiles would likely follow polar trajectories in any long-range scenario, reinforcing the importance of northern early warning systems. This illustrates a broader truth about modern geopolitics. Regional actions can have global consequences, and distant territories can become relevant through technological reach rather than geographic proximity. All of these dynamics unfold against the accelerating backdrop of climate change. The Arctic is warming faster than any other region on Earth, leading to rapid ice melt, ecological disruption, and profound geopolitical change. New maritime routes are opening, navigation seasons are lengthening, and resources once locked beneath ice are becoming accessible. For indigenous communities and ecosystems, these changes pose existential threats. For states, they represent new opportunities and risks. What was once a frozen barrier is becoming a navigable corridor, and competition is intensifying accordingly. In this new reality, Greenland is no longer simply an island of ice and isolation. It is a gateway, one that connects security, resources, technology, and time itself. The island is not for sale and may never become fully independent, but the struggle over its strategic significance has already begun. Quietly, methodically, and without open conflict, the Arctic is emerging as one of the defining theaters of 21st century geopolitics, and Greenland stands at its center, shaping a future that will be decided not by borders on a map, but by control over the forces that move above, below, and across the planet.